Inside the Audi RSQ8, this is Audi's fastest variant of their coupified SUV, which means this shares largely the same cabin as several other Audi products like the Q8, SQ8, and even the RS6, which means this still shares the same 3-screen dash architecture surrounded by some terrible piano black plastic, which, like you're expecting, comes pre-scratched, pre-dirtied, and pre-covered in biohazard material. So, speaking of those 3 screens, the bottom screen is your HVAC controls. There are no physical controls, however, the screen does offer haptic feedback, which surprisingly works quite well. Your infotainment screen in the center is high resolution, easy to read, and easy to navigate, despite having no physical controls other than a volume knob and a track select. You still have the same all-digital gauge cluster, which, much like the rest of the technology in this car, works rather well. From an ergonomics perspective, you have some of the best seats. They are identical to the seats you find in the RS6, which means they are quilted leather, heated and cooled, and have a massaging function. This car has an incredibly low noise floor. It has a ton of sound deadening material found throughout, like the suede headliner, the acoustic glass in the doors, the front windshield, the back screen in this car, all has a very, very low noise floor, which allows the Bang & Olufsen audio system to carry through quite well. You also sit up nice and high in this car, which gives you great visibility and minimal blind spots. Plus, you have good storage found throughout. However, due to the fact that this is a coupified SUV, you lose rear headroom, which is, again, it kind of defeats the purpose of an SUV, but nevertheless, that's something to bring up. And the storage space in this vehicle is identical to a much lower vehicle, the A6 All-Road or RS6. Again, if you want to maximize your space, you should end up with something like the SQ7 instead. But with that said, let's take this into the shop and put this on the lift. Mark, we're underneath the Audi RSQ8, and to be honest, if you're watching this, you should just reference our Audi RS6 video or our Q8 video or SQ8 video, because this is on the same platform, has most of the same suspension systems, but to be frank, this is identical mechanically other than suspension tuning to the Audi RS6. It's on the same platform, MLB Evo. It has the same engine, transmission, gearbox, and suspension subsystems, like the 48-volt system that is available on MLB Evo, which means it's got active sway bars and rear steer, plus air ride, which is a lot of subsystems to potentially go wrong, but it's also how Audi uses their engineering to bend physics to make a over 5,000-pound SUV handle like a dedicated sports car.
And it's also using their ECP, which is the electronically controlled platform, high-end ECU, microprocessors that control and tie all these systems together. So if you have air ride, you have an adjustable rear sway bar that's moving on the fly, you have rear steer module, you need all these electronic systems to communicate instantly, otherwise it feels like a giant mess.
Yes.
So all of that tied together is what you have here with a starting price of $115,000, and by default you get the V8. You get, a 600, almost 600 horsepower V8 with 600 pounds of torque, the rear wheel steering module, the sport differential, everything's baked in at that price. It's just when you start adding on the carbon black optic package for like $2,000,
the acoustic glass,
the carbon ceramics, the massaging seats. This one's $140, and you can get it to about $150.
What a deal. The one thing I will bring up is these brakes force you to get the 23-inch wheels, which help me with my rap albums. But the big thing is it compromises ride quality.
Yes, greatly.
This compared to the RS6, because it's been lifted, Audi has to figure out a way to control the mass of the vehicle and the fact that you've raised the ride height. So it is a stiffer car than the RS6. And these brakes are the size of buildings.
They're enormous. So it's a $9,500 package that when you replace them is $20,000. The tires are $2,000 just to get the tires replaced, and there's only 2 tire options through Discount Tire and Tire Rack, and no winter tire options. You go into this knowing that you're leasing it and you're going to have fun with it for a couple of years and you're going to dump it, but you can add a towing package. This can tow 7,700 pounds, which is a lot. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of that in-between usable product.
I can tow all my bullion.
Yeah, you're going to be able to tow a lot more than your bullion. You're going to be towing all my girlfriends. They're going to want to ride in this.
So, Mark, with that, I think it's time for us to take this for a bit of a street drive.
Sounds good.
Jack,
RSQ8. Do we need all this power?
I don't know, Mark. It might offend my sensibilities.
Oh, yeah. This thing is unbelievably fast.
0 to 60 in the mid threes, Mark, while you can get a massage at the same time.
Okay, let's get right into it. Since I've driven all the other Q8 variants, this to me is just adding another layer of it's just not necessary. Yes, it's faster. Yes, it's more capable, but you're doing a few things to it that make it worse. To me, in an SUV like this or a hauler, if you're gonna tow or you're gonna put your family in it, it's too stiff. And some of it is the 23-inch wheels and tire package. It makes it more just choppy. And, you know, I get what they're trying to do here. This is the sport version or variant, but you get a lot. You get almost all of what's good here in the SQ8 package. And I get it's not as high a performance as this, but it's so overkill already for that hauler package. But you improve the ride quality just enough where on normal trips you don't notice it as much as here, and even on the highway in comfort mode this thing just doesn't have the float and the softness over bad pavement that I would like, and to me that's the deal breaker.
I mean, this is a deeply compromised product, right? You take supercar performance, you put it in a already compromised SUV because you want the coupe roofline and the coupe styling, and then you want to make it handle like a supercar or, you know, a dedicated sports car, because most rich people don't buy sports cars anymore. You look at Lamborghini, the Urus, Porsche, you know, all these other brands. How are they making ends meet? They're doing it by building fast SUVs.
Yeah, and this, to be fair to them, this isn't as hideous as what BMW and Mercedes is doing with their coupe SUVs. It looks more normal, but you just get the interior is compromised by it, and it really bothers me that you don't have the space. If this was an RSQ7, then I could see maybe the argument because you truly have the hauling capacity. But because you're so limited, especially when those back seats are up and you look at the hatch space, that load floor is so high. It's just not a true pure hauler. And I get, you know, all right, you want that SUV thing because it gives you more practicality.
You mean so you can look down at the poor people around you?
Your argument for the RS6, the wagon, makes way more sense. You get way more usable space. But again, that's not the market. That's not what people are buying in droves.
But at least, see, to me, my problem is the biggest vehicle to look like the biggest dick in is a coupe SUV super thing. At least in the wagon, you look like a man of culture.
You blend in more.
Yeah,
it's got that more
better.
sleeper look. But again, you know, you got to follow where the money is.
Yeah, true.
That's what this product really is, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, really, other than the ride. And I will say, if you opt for the carbon ceramics, and I know with the air ride, you can take this off-road and all that. As soon as you take it off-road, you're going to destroy the carbon ceramics and
your 23-inch wheels.
The 23-inch wheels. The thing is, the brakes are an on and off switch here, and it's one of the things driving on the highway is if it's just you driving it, you're going to like the brake force, but your passengers are not. It's really hard to modulate them. The brake calipers are the size of like somebody's 16-inch wheels. They are enormous, and they are annoying to use. At least I found them annoying to use on a vehicle like this.
I think the extra weight also hurts this car dynamically. Launch it and I'll tell you what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and how much does this weigh?
5,500 pounds.
This thing gets to 100, like, I mean, it's insane how fast this goes.
But it still feels heavy.
It does.
In the corners, it feels heavy, and then initially off the line,
right?
Like you have like a dead, like half a second.
There's a dead zone. Yeah, there's a dead zone before, you know, you feel the boost fully come on. And again, this is trying to be a specific car for a specific market, so we're judging it like it's a supercar, but it's still an SUV. And I think the person that's going to buy this is going to be totally okay with this.
Yeah, this has got to be one of the fastest things on the road most of the time. So Mark, I think with that, let's send this off with one last pull before we get into the final thoughts.
All right, pull where? I should be towing a boat and accelerating like this.
You mean my bullion?
Yeah, your bullion boat.
Jesus Christ.
Final thoughts on the Audi RSQ8. And we've already done a video on the SQ8, and the regular Q8, you'll note that despite this being that coupe thing, which I still don't understand, it is an amazing piece of hardware. Now, we know that it's completely compromised in terms of space, which is the most confusing part of it. You don't have a ton of cargo capacity. You don't have a ton of back seat room. It's it's very compromised. But what you're paying for here is the underpinnings. It's shared with world-class vehicles like the Porsche Cayenne, the Lamborghini, and of course the Bentayga. So you know you're spending a lot of money, but you're getting a lot back. The electromechanical systems and electronic control of those systems are remarkable. I mean, anybody that's going to get in here, you're just going to be absolutely floored by how this thing drives. It is literally like a supercar, and what you could do on a back road or a track is almost a joke. It's really funny. Now, who this is for, the RSQ8, is for somebody that is making over $300,000 or $400,000 a year, that has that disposable income to lease this, and that just wants the best that you can buy. But to be completely honest, I feel like you're getting a majority of what they do well here in the SQ8. And it rides better as well than this. This is way too harsh. And granted, we're on the 23-inch wheels, which we talked about in the shop. This doesn't bring a whole lot more to the table that you can't get in the lower trim. And I'm just being completely fair. Is there anything wrong with this? No, it's just kind of about the dollars and cents. Do you really need everything that this brings to the table, considering it's probably not your only car? You're gonna have a sports car in the garage. And that's where I would make the decision. I'd rather just dump more on, my R8, and that's kind of the way that I look at this. In terms of the interior, it's almost the same as well. So again, there are some things about this that drive me nuts, and mainly it's the interior. When you look at the usable space, it's got a ton of compromises up front. The armrest sucks. The wireless charger has no ventilation, so your phone bakes. The two screens that they use for HVAC and the infotainment, it eats up so much space, there's really no place to put things. So it's about this compromise. It's still that SUV, CUV thing. So I feel like they could do a better job with storage, utility, all of that. And again, I feel like they're gonna figure it out in the generations to come. But if it was my money, I would just go to the SQ7. You get all the space, you get a lot of power, you get a lot of performance, and you get all of the utility in something like that versus this. But who am I? Make your own decision. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.